Hello, my name's Alex Connell and I'm the Principal Tutor at the Cordon Vert Cookery School, which is based at the Vegetarian Society in Cheshire. Today I'd like to show you how to make ocean pie. Now this is a really good recipe, and this dish has 4 components. The first is smoked tofu, which I'll fry with some paprika and some soy sauce. The second stage is using dehydrated seaweed, which will give it a real flavour of the ocean. And we've got garlic and stock and shallots, oyster mushrooms and button mushrooms. The third component is a lovely rich parsley sauce. Obviously we've got cream and butter and a little bit of milk. I'm also going to put some peas in there as well, which will add the sweetness. And the final part is the topping, which is some lovely mashed potato, which I'll add some grated cheese in there as well. And in fact, the Hairy Bikers visited the school a few weeks ago and they made this dish as well. So step 1 is to prepare the tofu. Add a little oil to your pan, and while that's heating, we can slice the tofu. Now tofu will come in a block of water, so it's very important to try and remove as much of that liquid as you can. The reason for that is it will allow more of the flavours from the dish to be absorbed into the tofu. If you don't do it, it's like a sponge that's already full of water. It won't absorb any more. So press out as much of the liquid as you can and then slice your tofu into nice strips. Now the tofu I'm using is smoked tofu, which will just add extra richness to it and that sort of oceany feel to it. Now before I put the tofu into the pan, I'm just going to slice the tofu at the edge. When you've sliced the tofu and you've cut down the edge, place it into the frying pan. But don't stir it around because it's very fragile and it will start to break up. So what you want to do is to create a nice crispy base to it before you turn it over. So that'll take around 5 minutes to get the base of it nice and crispy. Once that's happened, I'll turn it over and I'll put on my soy sauce and paprika. While the tofu is cooking, we can move on to stage 2, which is to prepare the base. Heat a little oil in the pan, and to that add chopped shallots. Now if you want to use onions you can, but shallots have a sweeter flavour, so for a treat I'd recommend that you do use shallots and take the time to peel them, but if you've only got onions in the house you can get away with onions. So this should take a few minutes or so to soften down, and then we can add the other ingredients. While the shallots are cooking, we can turn over the tofu, which should be nice and crispy on one side. If you turn it over, yeah, you can see that it's got a real nice texture. So just turn that over, and once they're all turned over, then I will season them. And the seasoning is paprika or cayenne pepper if you prefer something a little hotter, and soy sauce. Once turned over, you can add your seasoning, and make sure each piece of tofu gets some soy sauce, and then a sprinkle of your cayenne pepper or your paprika onto each one. And if you use smoked paprika as well, it'll add that extra smoky flavour. Our shallots are now ready for the other ingredients. So that's the oyster mushrooms that have been sliced, and that'll give a real good texture. And button mushrooms and dehydrated seaweed. Now you can get this in all of the major supermarkets and also health food stores. If you haven't used it before, you might want to use just a little bit less with the first time that you try it, because it does have a sort of fishy flavour to it. But if you do like that flavour, add some extra. So sprinkle it over like so. Now the pan looks as though it's really full, but as the mushrooms cook, well, the liquid will come out and it will all settle down. And finally, we can add our garlic and a little bit of powdered stock or bouillon. Stage 3 is to make the parsley sauce. Now we need a pan. I'm going to melt a little butter in there. And to that we can add some flour and give it a good stir. Now we can add the cream. This is quite a rich parsley sauce. And some milk. And of course, it wouldn't be parsley sauce without parsley. And in goes the parsley. So I'll stir that for 5 minutes or so, and it will thicken up nicely. To finish off the sauce, just add your peas. And it should be nice and rich and creamy, which this one is. So switch that off, and it's now time for the final stage, stage 4, which is to assemble our ocean pie. So these two dishes will serve two people. So we start off with our base, which is obviously the shallots and the onions and the seaweed. So we can put a nice amount in the bottom of each. The smell from this is really good. You can really smell the seaweed. And then we can put our crispy tofu on the top. So simply arrange these like so. So that when you have a portion of it, you should get a piece of tofu or 2 pieces of tofu with the serving. Then we add our parsley sauce with the peas. Over that goes, and that'll give it a lovely creamy quality. And then finally, we can add some mashed potato. Now make sure your mashed potato is nice and smooth. So add lots of milk and cream or butter, and if you want to add even more richness, add some cheese as well. And then just pipe your potato around the edge, like so. So start with the edge of each one and then work your way into the middle. Now it's absolutely fine to leave a small amount of topping that's not got potato, because that'll give a nice contrast to the dish. So we'll pop these into the oven, and they should take around about 20 minutes so that the top gets nice and crispy, and that'll be perfect. So pop them into the oven for 20 minutes and then we can enjoy them. Our ocean pies have been in the oven for around about 30 minutes. The topping should be nice and crispy. So let's have a look. Perfect. Look at that, look at that. A window into the gorgeousness of it. And that's how to make ocean pie.